Hello, good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo to present. Our top stories in the news tonight. Defense Minister cautions citizens against fraudsters ahead of the recruitment exercise. The death toll in the Great East Road accident rises to 12. Civil society organizations accused of being mute on homosexuality to please funders. In international news, Mali claims it was stabbed in the back by France over troop withdrawal. And in sports news, the Football Association of Zambia dares ASANOVIC to take legal action.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello once again, the news in detail. The Media Network on Child Rights and Development has condemned the trend of abusing children by sending them to beg on the streets. Organization coordinator Henry Kabwe says children, regardless of their circumstances, need to be protected and not abused by being used as a source of income. Mr. Kabwe says many children have continued being deprived an opportunity of being in school simply because their guardians view them as a source of income. Meanwhile, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says the police, while working with the Ministry of Community Development, have been devising plans of helping the guardians and says there has to be a solution before they can be moved from the streets. More in this report.
Child labor is often defined as work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential and their dignity, and that is harmful to their physical and mental development. In Zambia, however, child labor in form of parents spending long hours on the road asking for alms while using their children is happening at the watch of many stakeholders, and no one seems to be noticing. Media Network on Child Rights and Development coordinator Henry Kawe, however, says it is an offense for a parent to beg on the street using the innocent children on their backs, or in most cases spend over 8 hours on the road with children being subjected to anger.
Observed with concern in a number of women that are begging on the street or carrying children on their backs, and also a number of children that are patronizing wrong places. And I was recently in Chipata where I saw a 13-year-old, between 13 to 15-year-old girl who was literally drunk, and staggering. So there's lawlessness within our society, and we need to ensure that we stop this kind of lawlessness. It's illegal for these women to be begging with their children on their backs, and also, seeing these children asking for alms and selling around because it is depriving them of their education.
Meanwhile, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga tells this reporter that there are laws that protect children from being used as bait for alms, and says the law needs to be enforced so that children can be protected from such abuses by their guardians.
Children, the Ministry of Community Development did actually conduct an operation, I think last week. We did give them support through our child protection unit as police officers to help them carry out that mandate. Again, also should understand that when you are handling juveniles, there's a way that juveniles are supposed to be handled. They're not supposed to be handled like the way we handle adults. So it has to be done cautiously, and we have to put contingencies in place. When you get those children from the street, where do you take them?
While poverty in most cases has been attributed as the reason why there has been an increase in child labor, the Zambian government has a responsibility to ensure children are protected from being abused by either supporting their guardians with the right capital or arresting those who are responsible for abusing children, as this will serve as a deterrent to would-be offenders. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The number of people who died in the Great East Road traffic accident has risen to 12 as another person who was in the intensive care unit ICU at the Levi Mwanawasa Hospital has been confirmed dead. Munali Member of Parliament Mike Mposha says government will incur the funeral and burial expenses and hopes to have a mass burial on Tuesday after consulting with the bereaved families. According to the police, the fatal road accident occurred around 06 hours due to excessive speeding by the driver of the public transport Toyota Hiace minibus, who lost control and went to hit a Zambia National Service low-bed truck.
The death toll of the road traffic accident that occurred in the wee hours of yesterday on the Great East Road, Unze Junction, has increased from 11 to 12. The scenes of yesterday are hard to understand and left everyone in utter shock and fear. According to the initial police report, a Zambia National Service officer who was driving a truck carrying an excavator died on the spot. From the Toyota Hiace minibus, 9 passengers sustained fatal injuries, while 5 passengers sustained serious injuries and are all admitted at Levi Mwanawasa Hospital. The driver of the minibus was among the dead, comprising of 7 males and 4 females. Another vehicle involved was a Toyota Corolla. The driver escaped unhurt. The 8 bodies of the deceased were deposited in the University Teaching Hospital's mortuary, while the 3 are at Levi Mwanawasa Hospital mortuary. So far, 6 out of the 11 deceased persons from the accident have been identified. Munali Member of Parliament Mike Mposha, Area Councillor Lubasimi Lupi, and Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit Coordinator Dr. Gabriel Pollen and his team visited the affected bereaved families to provide food supplies. They visited the funeral house of Musa Mwanza in Kaunda Square Stage 2, who was 33 years old and has left behind a pregnant wife and 3 children. They proceeded to Kaunda Square Stage 1 and visited the funeral house of the now deceased Stephen Kazila, who was in his 20s and left behind a baby boy. They also visited the house of Nancy Piri, who died at the age of 45 and has left behind a child. The family has plentifully appreciated government's gesture. The team also visited the funeral house of Sande Chileshe, who died at the age of 29 and was a driver of the Toyota Hiace minibus. Mr. Mposha hopes that the bereaved families will agree to have a mass burial.
Through the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, the government has provided some foodstuffs to support the bereaved families as they mourn their beloved ones. So in this support, we have bags of mealie meal. So for each family, they have been given 10 bags of 25 kg each. And 20 kgs of rice, and as well as beans, 50 kg of beans.
He has further indicated that his office will work with other government departments to curb the increase in road traffic accidents.
You are aware that not too long ago, the Vice President, as acting President, because the President was out of the country, she was in Northern Province to bury more than 20 people who died again in a road accident.
He has also confirmed that the death toll of the road carnage has increased to 12 in total.
Late afternoon, around 16:30, one of the persons who was in the ICU eventually, gave up and died. And that brings the number to 12. So
he has been in touch with the hospital authorities to check on the status of the other victims.
They are stable, but still in a critical condition. Most of them with multiple fractures. Yesterday, by the time we were at the hospital, we had 2 in the resuscitation ward. Then we had 2 who were still in the theater. And we had 3 who were in the ICU. Unfortunately, one of the 3 who were in the ICU is the one who died after 16 hours yesterday.
A visit at the accident site found relatives of one of the dead accident victims searching for her phone as it kept ringing and went unanswered.
This is the exact spot where the road carnage happened yesterday. This spot has been said to be a danger zone. For many road accidents have been recorded right here on this very spot. One concerned citizen has asked, how about starting with the van cargoes that have been converted into buses? Why don't we change that illegality? And then He has also cited bus drivers and conductors who are abusing alcohol when they are on duty. He has also asked, why don't we have a permanent presence of the police and rapid patrols? He has also alluded to the fact that speed cameras have to be installed on this very stretch of the road. We hope that this road carnage will never repeat itself again. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
All People's Congress Party President Nelson Musoni notes that the ever-rising road fatalities on Zambian roads require urgent intervention. Mr. Musoni feels a lot of factors are at play, leading to the unprecedented number of accidents. He points out an increased number of heavy load trucks carrying vehicles moving at extremely high speeds, which he says needs to be regulated. He adds that increased lawlessness on the roads is evidently clear for all to see, hence the necessity to bring back sanity on the roads by way of regular highway patrols.
When you talk about the Great North Road and the state it's in, the polling state that it's in, if you talk about the Great East Road, the state that's in, undoubtedly these are death traps. And our appeal to our colleagues in government to expedite working on these roads. And also to ensure that reckless and dangerous drivers are caged. Drink driving must be addressed in a way. It is one of the single most cause of road accidents. So we can't just address it on a one-off thing. It must be a continuous process. Okay, so we think that patrols, police patrols, traffic patrols are an important aspect of ensuring that we have sanity on our roads. Yes, I've heard some of our colleagues talk about roadblocks, but in a way, roadblocks appear to perpetuate corruption rather than preventing accidents. So we think the solution lies in ensuring that we have patrols day and night. We want to see the visibility of government on our roads. Truckers are bullying small vehicles on roads. Sometimes you are forced to drive and park in the bush to give way to truckers or to truck drivers. So we think that we need to reclaim back our roads. We want to see sanity on our roads.
The ban alcohol activist Dr. Brian Sampa has charged that most non-governmental organizations have been failing to speak out on homosexuality because most of them benefit from funding that comes from countries that are propelling the agenda. Speaking as guest presenter at the luncheon for old people organized by the Zambia Community Development Initiative program in Lusaka on Sunday, Mr. Sampa says homosexuality is not just an offense, but it is morally and culturally wrong in Zambia. Meanwhile, a senior citizen, Peter Malembeka, says homosexuality must not be allowed to thrive in Zambia. Details in the following report.
In recent years, many developing countries have come under pressure from sections of the Western world to embrace the LGBTQI community and homosexuality in general in exchange for financial help. Those countries with financial muscle use it to lure developing countries through hefty donations. However, in Zambia, homosexuality is not only illegal but goes against the country's culture and values as a Christian nation. Amid mounting political pressure from government critics, President Hakainde Hichilema and his administration have maintained that Zambia does not subscribe to the agenda. On Sunday, during a luncheon for old people in Lusaka, organized by the Zambia Community Development Initiative program, senior citizens have condemned the increasing cases of sodomy and purportedly emergence of same-sex relationships in the country, calling on parents to monitor their children.
So if makolo ni famela ife timaononga timalekelela vana sitivapunzisa mumanyumba yaye tizivapunzisa kuti valeke voendaenda na mwamuna mzake na mwamuna mzake na mzake kulibe ayo ni maloza ni kuononga ziko.
Meanwhile, Zambia Community Development Initiative Program Brand Ambassador Joseph Shambosha shared his views.
I don't see it right. This is really shameful to see a man getting married to a fellow man, or a woman get married to a fellow woman. This is a taboo. I'm telling you the fact. And it's also against our culture.
Others say same-sex marriages must not be allowed to prevail in Zambia.
Even in the Bible it's written, God created Adam and Eve. That's why God created two people, and that's what it's supposed to be. If this thing is coming from the Western culture, I think they should stay with it. Us in Zambia, we are not in support of it. We are not. We are saying no to homosexual, we are saying no to lesbian.
Mulungu pachiyambi pamene anayamba anapanga Adamu na Eva. So iseta abantu sitingavichinje ndipo sivingachitike mwamuna na mkazi. Bakwenera kuti mwamuna na mkazi akwenera okwatira mkazi note akazi beka okwatirana tikalibe ochiwonapo ero sivingachitike.
Meanwhile, former Resident Doctors Association of Zambia President Dr. Brian Sampa, who was among the speakers at the event, observed that civil society organizations have been mute on various issues pertaining to sodomy and homosexuality-related issues because they receive funding from countries that endorse same-sex marriages.
Most organizations in our country, if not all, are funded by the same people who perpetrate homosexuality. So they can't speak out. They are so quiet because you can't bite the finger that feeds you. However, that is not a problem to us because our aim is not to gain money out of this. For us, we want to preserve the future of our country. So money comes secondary. Our primary goal is just to help our country to remain a Christian nation, to also develop the people's understanding, both scientifically, that this vice is not approved, spiritually, that it's an abomination and it's a sin, and legally, that it is an illegal act which is criminal.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
In another development, the Young Women's Christian Association, YWCA, says if the country is not careful in the manner in which cases of sodomy are being exposed on social media, children will be wrongly socialized to believe that the acts are acceptable. Organization National Council President Patricia Mubanga says key stakeholders in the aspect of child safeguarding and protection, especially the government, need to find solutions and help the children that are hurting and getting harmed by these negative vices. Mrs. Mubanga says there is need for dialogue among all stakeholders, including the clergy, politicians, both from the ruling party and opposition, as well as other relevant stakeholders, to discuss the vice before it destroys the future leaders. She says the country ought to invest more in mental health issues to address these unnatural, abominable acts and help those that have been victims and perpetrators.
Zambia, we call on every voice and concerned citizen, the clergy and every person in authority to say no to such abominable acts. YWCA Zambia is very concerned and horrified to see the rate at which our children, particularly the boys, are being exposed to these unnatural practices and sadly sexually violated by adults who are expected to protect them. We know and believe that the country ought to invest more in mental health issues to address these unnatural, abominable acts and help those that have been victims in order to help them heal from the trauma that they have been through due to abuse. The perpetrators of such vices, besides being brought to book, also need mental health services in order to address the root cause of such behavior for a lasting solution.
Defense Minister Ambrose Lufoma has advised would-be applicants for jobs in the military not to be hoodwinked into paying bribes in order to be employed. The minister has observed that fraudsters have already started to solicit for money from unsuspecting members of the general public, a move he says is detrimental and will not be condoned. He says 5,000 jobs will be advertised in the media in October next month to recruit Zambia Army, Zambia Air Force and National Service officers. The minister also disclosed that the matter of officers who were unfairly fired under the Patriotic Front administration has reached an advanced stage.
Zambia is confronted with high unemployment levels, and as of 2019, labor force employment was 2.9 million, while Zambia's population is at 18 million, meaning many people are in the informal sector or doing nothing at all. During the census of population, recruitment of enumerators and supervisors, the country witnessed the desperation for jobs among young people. With desperation for employment, Zambians have been prone to scams where they end up paying people huge sums of money, claiming to have connections to help them secure a job. And for most of them, it has ended in tears. And the defense wing will be recruiting 5,000 officers in the Zambia Air Force, Zambia Army, and the Zambia National Service. Defense Minister Ambrose Rufuma has advised people to be wary of fraudsters ahead of the recruitment in October next month. And he has cautioned those who wish to take advantage of the process that the law will catch up with them.
Who would like to make a quick buck. I've seen on social media, for example, adverts asking for a deposit of 200, 300 kwacha. That we do not do as a government. We will simply advertise and we will go out into the provinces, ensure that the grassroots, the districts are involved. So we'll get people from the districts coming to the province, and then at the provincial level we'll be able to select. Whoever is selected will be able then to come for training in Camnet. So that is the process we're undertaking, and do not fall prey to fraudsters. Whoever is perpetrating these unholy activities will catch up with them and deal with them as the law demands.
The minister also gave an update on officers who were fired in national interest.
The majority of the people, I think, applied for reinstatement with Cabinet Office. And I think Cabinet Office has been able to come through and announce the people who have been reinstated, who qualified to be reinstated. As for the army, we had Defense Force. We had a few who directly applied to the Defense Force for this consideration. We constituted a small committee that looked at the merits and demerits of their dismissal or resignation in national interest. And depending on the merits, some have been reinstated. The process has been complete, and all we are waiting is essentially just for the approval process to take effect.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Farmers in Ngwerere area of Lusaka have alleged that they are at the verge of losing their farming land due to encroachment by political cadres. In an interview, the farmers have told Camnet News that the cadres are coming with legal documents from the local authority and the Ministry of Lands claiming ownership to the land they have titles to. The farmers say the local authority has never been to the area to assess who the occupants of the land are and have wondered how the local authority has been issuing land without being on the ground to demarcate boundaries. One of the affected people says he wrote to the council in 2018 with the intention to buy the land he occupies, but denied allegations that the said land belonged to Tazara Railways, and further says he is surprised to learn that the land has been sold to someone else. More in this report.
Culture impacts society in many ways, including supporting livelihood through food, habitat and job creation. Some farmers in Ngwerere area of Chongwe district in Lusaka are at the verge of losing their farming land, as some cadres are now coming with legal documents from the local authority claiming ownership of the land they have been farming on for some time. This family, interviewed by Camnet News, explains that this land they have occupied since time immemorial is almost slipping out of their hands, as some cadres have come with documents claiming that the said land has been sold to them by the local authority.
Banabwera makadda banativuta tikaenda bakaenda wazimuna watu wanyamuka baenda kukanso babauza atembekeza ntikarukambapo Baenda kulanzi baba uzatembekezani lembani maleta. Sama muna wanga nalimba maleta ziyambili kupeleka kulanzi kuja. But kube chinashitika chili chonzi. China konkapo uyu muntu anabwera mwene muonera mwamana ikila visanti vake vija. Uyu muntu anabwera na title. Kuli place mozi mataito ya bidi. Answer ni no. Kuli baini. So panana bwera abantu kamba kubafunsa manje. Ni chani. Apa pamena na bwera nikambeva manje apa na bwera basa mwono sama kuti PF ikalimu. Tikalibe kuchoka ya malo. Ponsa apa banagulisa kudala pali manyumba. Mwamene muonera nyumba yanga jali paja. Nifani konkaya na road hapa. Poenda pa nyumba paja ni zambo jumba.
The family claims they have called on the Chongwe Municipal Council to come and explain how the land in question has been sold when it houses Zesco cables as well as the road that leads to their residential homes.
Mwamene zofuno faka mwamene zofuno manga mwamene anapasana matitles Muli road reserve. Muli road reserve then 50 meters kuchokera munjanji ni aba zambereres. Then mwamene bafuno manga futi muli ma power lines like mwamene mwaonera muli ma power lines muntu anga mange mu ma power lines. Ela futi chintu china kuti ilandi tina sharing mwamene bakambira as a family outlet yatu ni iri kuno. Manje banzofuna kuti bamange kuno kwamene kuli outlet yatu. Manje mzapeza kuti ngati tifuna choka tizambo pita kuti ushetizambo jumpa pa mwamba pa machani yao ya manyumba yamene funo manga.
Others are also disappointed that farmlands are now being turned into residential areas and that those coming to settle in the said lands are now encroaching in their farms and are worried that with time they will run out of land to do their agriculture activities.
That the land belongs to railways, but I'm surprised that the same area they are giving to other people. I appeal to the Chongwe Council to correct the things. Last time, some 5 years ago, they told us that everything is okay. What is remaining is just to sign the paper. Now, signing the paper, can it take 5 years? Only a signature. Just a signature taking 5 years. No. Let us change the system. They should come on the ground and ask the people who are close to that area. And then the first they need to give those people before giving to others.
Gaona pametwa imirira pano. Ukunakumbiwa uku. Uyu ni mfolo uyu. Uku ni landi yatu uyu. Manje chamene chichitika mmene bakambira banzanga bamene wachoka. Umabwera abantu usiku. Upeza kuti ba parking amamoto mwanga umu. Tunapeza po mabikoni hapana kuja kusogolo. Tifika bativuta maningi tukakala paja panja usiku kwatu kuja. Uzapeza kuti mamoto ga usiku mumunda mwanga.
The biggest problem with us farmers is that they see this as if it's empty. And yet, it's a farm. There are plans for this.
But Chongwe Town Clerk Damson Mukwato, when contacted, told this reporter that he will engage the relevant departments to investigate the matter. With Zambian population expanding and land being on high demand, Zambia should not ignore the fact that agriculture is the backbone of the country's development and that land meant for agriculture purposes should be preserved for such purpose. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take our first commercial break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
You know I can take her a break.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana. Banga kubunkireni dad.
Don't worry, man. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Continue with the news. The National Union of Public and Private Educators of Zambia, NUPEZ, has called on the Ministry of Finance to allocate more resources in the 2023 national budget to curriculum development. NUPEZ General Secretary Nelson Mwale says the decay in morals of young people, which is now leading to cases of homosexuality, can be attributed to lack of proper guidance programs in schools, which needs to be included in the school curriculum. Mr. Mwale also says that government needs to allocate more resources to the education sector to ensure that schools that were left uncompleted by the previous administration can be completed. He says the recruitment of 30,000 teachers comes with a lot of responsibilities, such as teachers' accommodation, which should be sorted out in the 2023 budget.
Of money must be pushed into curriculum development. You know that our curriculum has a number of gaps. One of the gaps that is there is that of morality. You know, much morality must be enshrined in our curriculum. We are seeing a lot of issues to do with, you know, homosexuality in schools and so on and so forth. And so when we have much of morality enshrined in the curriculum, then we are assured that our learners are very, very safe. Not only that, we want to see all those schools that have not been gazetted be funded so that there is treasury authority towards the gazetting of those schools. We are seeing a number of our workers that have not been confirmed, that are not being promoted. Why? Because there has not been funding towards the gazetting of those schools by the treasury authority. There are many issues that are highly dependent on that budgetary allocation. Outside, for example, there are a lot of schools that were started by the previous government but have not been completed. And so our expectations are that those schools must be completed, the accommodation completed, because the newly recruited 30,000 plus teachers must take advantage of those houses that are there in those schools that have not been completed.
Government says the Zambia Defense Forces participation at the Africa Aerospace and Defense Air Show in South Africa is testimony of the country's determination to ensure peace reigns beyond borders. Ministry of Defense Permanent Secretary Norman Chipakupaku says the exhibitions brings militaries together to show their skills and ensuring that security and stability is attained throughout the continent. Mr. Chipakupaku says the exhibition also helps to create an enabling environment for economic growth and development. Meanwhile, Zambia Army Commander Lieutenant Sitali Aluwuzwi stressed the need to ensure that peace and stability is maintained in the region. The event was opened on Wednesday, 21st September 2022 at Waterkloof Air Force Base in Pretoria, South Africa, and ends today, Sunday, the 25th of September 2022.
Exhibitors who are here so that we can modernize our defense force. The other thing we're here for is to learn about how the defense industries work so that we can also contribute to the economic development of our country. So I think it has been a fantastic time to be able to participate in Zambia, a good delegation which came to see, but also to meet the neighboring countries, the defense forces chiefs, ministers and defense secretaries of the neighboring countries, so that we are able to talk to each other, we are able to share experiences.
To ensure that peace and stability is maintained in the region. The exhibition itself brings about a wealth of experience, military experience, and it is for this reason that an invitation was extended to us.
The United States Embassy in Zambia has hailed the Center for Environment Justice, CEJ, for being among 3 organizations in Zambia to scoop Global Innovation Awards run by the U.S. government. U.S. Embassy in Zambia Cultural Affairs Specialist Austin Ngoma disclosed that CEJ's Stop the Chop project to be implemented in Mufulira District, Buchinga Province, stood out in the competition. Mr. Ngoma revealed that out of over 500 applications submitted for the AIF Global Competition, the Stop the Chop project by CEJ stood out among the 73 that were awarded worldwide. Speaking earlier, Center for Environment Justice Executive Director Maggie Mwape thanked the U.S. government over its commitment towards environmental protection issues. Ms. Mwape highlighted that the Stop the Chop project would bring together strategic key stakeholders such as government, civil society organizations, the youth, the women, and people living with disabilities.
Out of over 500 applications submitted for this global competition, it is a global competition, the Stop the Chop project stood out among 73 that were awarded in the entire world. And the Stop the Chop is one of only 3 projects that were awarded in Zambia. Only one of 3. So we can see here that Maggie and her team are the real deal. You know, they are not here to joke around. They don't joke around at all.
In the initial design of these activities, we made sure that they spoke to the initiative, the name of the initiative, which is the Stop the Chop campaign, and also tried to ensure that it will be able to bring strategic key stakeholders that involves government, civil society, youth, the women, and then also people living with disability. So the first campaign is the project launch, which we are doing today, and we are so excited that we have our key strategic partners who are here with us, the U.S. Embassy, the Zambia-U.S. Exchange Association. We are so happy, and then also the civil society youth and our youth environmental defenders.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
And now in international news, Mali's interim prime minister poured damning criticism on France at the UN on Saturday, saying they were stabbed in the back when the French military withdrew from the country. Abdoulaye Idrissa Maïga said Mali felt abandoned in its fight against terrorism. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters concerned about climate change took to the streets of Nairobi, demanding compensation from rich countries for the damage done to Africa. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
Mali's interim prime minister poured damning criticism on France at the UN on Saturday, saying they were stabbed in the back when the French military withdrew from the country. Abdoulaye Idrissa Maïga said Mali felt abandoned in its fight against terrorism. The world will remember that after being abandoned in mid-air on the 10th of June 2021 by France's unilateral decision to withdraw the Barkhane force from Mali, he says, my country was then stabbed in the back by the French authorities. In view of the seriousness of the acts committed by the French junta, Mali, in its letter dated 15th of August 2022, requested an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. The purpose of this meeting is to allow Mali to present the evidence in its possession, demonstrating that the French army has repeatedly attacked my country. France intervened militarily in Mali in 2013, leading an effort to oust Islamic extremists from control of some northern towns. But the PM said the fight is now in the hands of citizens. I would like to say that the Malian people have decided to take the destiny into their own hands, he says. They fully support the government in rebuilding Mali and in returning to a peaceful and secure constitutional order in March 2024, following free, transparent and credible elections. Maige was also highly critical of the UN, but praised the influence of Russian mercenaries, despite them being accused of carrying out human rights abuses. Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Nairobi on Saturday to demand wealthy countries do more to tackle climate change in Africa. Areas of Kenya have been devastated by the worst drought in 40 years, which many are blaming on global warming, and campaigners say industrialized nations should compensate them for their losses.
We need the global north to pay for the damages they're causing. Remember, from the IPCC report, 96% of the emissions are being emitted by the global north. 4% is emitted by the global south. Africa, at our position, with only 4%, we are not able to make any great contribution of these emissions. So we are demanding for the global north to pay for the loss and damage.
The march took place as part of the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. The youth-based movement holds street marches and protests demanding that wealthier nations pay for the huge damage done to the land of smallholder farmers and pastoralists across Africa.
These disasters and these challenges are not just happening in Kenya, they're happening across the African continent, and this is a continent that has done the least to cause the climate crisis but still continues to bear the biggest brunt. And so we are asking that countries that have contributed the most to this crisis should definitely not abandon these communities on the front line to their fate, but they should step up and fulfill the pledges they've made on climate finance.
In September 2021, almost 3.5 million Kenyans became victims of extreme weather, with the government declaring it a national disaster. In the same period, around 200,000 people were displaced by flooding.
It's now time for sports news. The Chipolopolo Zambia job is now officially vacant after the team's Croatian-born trainer Aliosa Asanovic terminated his contract with the 2012 AFCON champions. Asanovic confirmed through his legal representative Davo Radic that he has quit Chipolopolo following a pay dispute. Asanovic, who was appointed on January 15, 2022 as Chipolopolo head coach, has since communicated his resignation to FAZ. FAZ General Secretary Adrian Kashala says Asanovic had sent his resignation from his home country after snubbing all efforts to resolve the matter. Kashala says FAZ welcomes Asanovic's desire to accelerate the matter to FIFA to seek closure. And still in sports, Chipolopolo captain Enoch Mwepo has been discharged from the polyclinic Pasteur de Bamako. Mwepo, who has been admitted at the hospital for the past 4 days, has been discharged and has left for his base, where he is expected to undergo further treatment. Mwepo, who reported for Chipolopolo duty on Monday, has been ruled out of the 2 back-to-back international friendly matches against Mali. To end Camnet television news, the headlines once again. Defense Minister cautions citizens against fraudsters ahead of the recruitment exercise. The death toll in the Great East Road accident rises to 12. Civil society organizations accused of being mute on homosexuality to please funders. In international news, Mali claims it was stabbed in the back by France over troop withdrawal. And in sports news, the Football Association of Zambia dares Asanovic to take legal action. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from the book of Proverbs 12, verse 1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. Thank you once again for watching the news. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Have a good night.